welcome to Mose Cyber Security Institute's YouTube channel. My name is Benjamin Mose and I'm the founder of the Institute. It's a pleasure to have you on our channel, and today I'd like to talk to you about what a catastrophic cyber event could look like. And there are two scenarios that we can envision as to how a major catastrophic cyber events could look like. Scenario number one is the scenario that you'll read in books, or that most journalists will report on blog posts and articles. And that's the idea that computer hackers are going to infiltrate and sabotage, let's say a power plant. And if this power plant is big enough, let's say that the power plant provides electricity to 20% of a nation, then just by taking out this particular power plant, then the country in and of itself will fall over. So, the power plant may only provide electricity to 20% of the nation, but because everything is interconnected, if businesses and government entities and financial services organizations in 20% of the nation fall over and become inaccessible, then that will lead to a ripple effect that will really affect the nation, nationwide. And so that's really the scenario that, you would read in most books, and that, it's being heavily debated and talked about on the internet. But there's a second scenario that I see as even more concerning and even more plausible. In fact, if I was to put a bet on, will scenario 1 over scenario 2 happen, I think it's much more likely that scenario 2 will happen. And scenario 2 is the following. On the internet, everything is connected, even if it's not a direct connection. What does that mean? Well, it means that, let's say that you put your money into a superannuation fund for retirement purposes. Well, that superannuation fund takes your money, takes your details, and actually shares it across multiple other financial services organizations who then do the same. And then the data keeps being passed on, and the money keeps being passed on over and over again to potentially an incredibly large number of entities who then all have connections to suppliers and so on and so forth. And so what happens is, if you think of the internet as a connection of nodes, all right, and let's say that the green nodes are organizations that have not been compromised, and then the red nodes that I'm showing you on the screen here are organizations that have been compromised. What happens is that slowly over time, organizations that haven't been compromised are now being compromised, and data is being stolen, and so the network is going from green to red. And it's even more concerning because all these organizations are sharing data and have network connections between one another. And we really don't know who's connected to whom and how much data they're exchanging. That information is not public. Nobody really knows the extent of it. And so what would happen is that nodes that have not been directly compromised have exchanged data with organizations that have been compromised. So in fact, what's happened is that they've been indirectly compromised. And so if you look at a new graph here, what you actually see is that you have nodes that are red. These are organizations that we know have been breached. Then we have nodes that were green but now are orange because they've been indirectly compromised. And then potentially somewhere in the network, you still have green nodes that have been not compromised at all. And every single day that goes by, the more the attackers breach into even small companies and are stealing data, the network is slowly going from green to orange to red, and there are more and more red and orange nodes as the compromises happen. And so the big question is, at what point have enough organizations been compromised and enough data been stolen that the entire network kind of crumbles down? And we don't know how, that major event would look like. But I want to share with you some statistics that I've pulled out of the internet, and I don't know how correct they are. I don't think anybody really knows. But if you Google a bit, you'll see that there are reasons to believe that 97% of all the passwords ever typed on the internet, those passwords have already been stolen and they have been compromised, meaning that they have been reverted back to a clear text password. We also have reasons to believe in the industry that 7 out of 10 people that have ever used the internet have had their identity stolen. Their passport information has been stolen. Their addresses have been stolen. Their full names have been stolen. In some cases, financial information has been stolen. And in the first world, there's also some indications that could point us to say that 5 out of 10 companies have had intellectual property stolen as well. And so, it kind of begs the question to say, if the network's going from green to red at an accelerated pace, and soon enough, at some point, everybody will be compromised. Everybody's data will be available online and available to criminals. And intellectual property will have been stolen from one nation to another. At what point do all these compromises put together lead to a catastrophic event that we can't really anticipate when it will happen, what shape it will take, and what impact it will have? And so that's really, I think, the big question that cybersecurity professionals should ask themselves today. It's not so much, can we just defend critical infrastructure? If anything, I would say that a lot of resources are going into those areas to make sure that critical infrastructure stays up and running and that we have backup plans if a major cyber attack happens. But what will happen on the internet when, 80% of the entire network has been compromised, when 95% of users on the internet have been compromised through one mean or another? And so I will just leave you to think about that. I don't have the answers to it, but I think that scenario 2 is the scenario that we are heading towards at the moment, and nobody really has a plan as to how we would be able to address scenario 2 if it was to unfold. So thank you very much for watching, and see you soon on our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and see you soon.